You have been told many lies of Middle-earth.
Hey guys, we are back. It is the finale of the Rings of Power. The episode was titled Alloyed. Don't know what that meant. But anywho, I'm back, Natasha, aka Natty Will, and I'm back with Sam. What's up, man?
What up, peoples?
And we got Ty back with us. Hello, sir.
What up, what up, what up?
We are back, and so we got some rings finally.
Hey.
We finally got some rings. We got three. We got three rings. And they were really pretty. You want to show that? They were really pretty.
Just like they're pretty.
Oh man, I'm like, can I get one? But that I don't know if I want those particular ones because of their connection to a certain person that got revealed in this episode. Actually, Mr. Hallbrand, would you please stand up and introduce yourself?
It is I,
Dog.
Lord Halbrand.
Who is not the king? Well, okay, he's the king of the Southlands. He's the king of Mordor.
Right. Right.
All right, so
Yeah,
guys, what did you think of that reveal? I feel like we were already suspecting Halbrand anyway as being Sauron, but when it was actually revealed and Galadriel was like figuring it out, what were y'all thoughts during those scenes? And I want to start with Ty.
Man, you want to start with me?
Yep.
Well, first, let me give a shout out to my man Lenny Henry, man. My man Sada. You know, I knew they was going to kill off the black dude in the series, and I'm a little salty about that. But you know,
just a little bit.
But you know what I'm saying? Shout out to him. He did a great performance. But I absolutely loved how they introduced this double plot twist, this plot twist and a plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how they set it up. You know, hearing that the stranger was possibly Sauron, and you know, getting into the mix where they were actually making that believable because he was out there doing some Sandman type magic. And then when they realized it wasn't him, I was like, okay, well, who could it actually be? And when Galadriel, I started to suspect Halbrand when he started giving them advice on how to smith the mithril. When he started talking about, you know, coaxing it and caressing it versus, you know, the force, I was like, okay, this is kind of referencing the books where the dude who ended up being Sauron was just coaxing this dude into making the rings. But what did it for me was, even though Galadriel had basically suspected this dude to be the lost king of the Southlands, when she went back to go look at his back history, that's when I kind of knew. That's when I knew that it was him. And I thought that was a great plot twist because it confirmed two things for me. That one, he was Sauron, and two, who the stranger was. But we'll get to that later. I loved it. I thought it was great. Still salty about my man Sonic though, but I thought it was great.
What we're definitely gonna get to him because I'm also salty. Because for real, like you gonna kill the one black hobbit? Okay, all right. Sam, go ahead.
Thank you. You understand that? You understand?
Yeah. So it's a two-headed sword for me. I was spoiled that he was Sauron. I was randomly on Twitter late at night, and I just saw it just randomly there, and I was like, "What?" It's kind of like I did a double take. I was like, "Nah, that can't be real." But then went through the episode, and I'm starting to look, and I'm like, "Wait, Halbrand, what you doing? Like, why are you talking to them about how to This is where it threw me off though, because the three witches were like, no, you're Sauron. And I was like, wait, I saw the Twitter post. So I was thrown off by the whole entire thing because I never had a notion that Halbrand in any capacity could have been Sauron. The only thing that I thought was strange was when was it Adar, or what's the guy's name that was leading the orcs? What's his name? Adar.
Adar.
When
Adar.
Agar has said something along the lines that I killed Sauron, I did all this for Sauron, and it seemed like he had some animosity. But then I was like, well, wait, what is Halbrand's connection to this guy? Like, what has he done? They never really clearly defined that. That was the only kind of time I was kind of like, oh, maybe, nah, that doesn't make sense. But then when you think about it, he survived this really mortal wound. Didn't make any sense how he just ran and stood up, was just fine. And then this episode particularly, it was like really on the nose. If I hadn't have seen the post, either way, I would have felt the same. I was like, yo, he's sounding real suspect right now. Like, what's he doing? So when they revealed it, it makes it so dramatic because I don't know what this means, because he said to her, like, look, like, I needed you to get me where I needed to go. But he still protected her. Like, he actually saved her a couple different times. He could have ended her life a couple different times. And I was kind of like, this is very fascinating because I'm more curious as to where is this gonna go. Is it just at this point where it is, like, or are they gonna try to push for this even more? I think that's what made my curiosity peak, because I'm like, yo, he's a whole pound, and we don't even know the levels of what he can do at this point. He deceived them this whole entire season as well as us. I never suspected him up until this episode, realistically.
I love this image, and I don't know why, but even though it's a completely different image, but it still reminded me of Baron and Luthien, that cover. I don't know why. But and I was telling Sam this before we even started the show, but Batman and Vicky Vale, really? Okay, I could probably see that, but but I just thought that was a great image and a great shot of like a potential future if Galadriel said yes. And it's just funny to me how, of course, some of the women on Twitter were like, well, shoot, I'll say yes. Like,
wow.
What?
Wow.
I'm like, no, that's not it. Like, Sauron, this is not it.
They're looking at Sauron from the human form.
Right. No, yeah.
We're looking at it from the Sauron we know.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from the Sauron I know. Like, I know Halbrand is impersonating as a human. So he's Sauron in human form. I'm like, all right, but you shapeshift. So this is you, really. And then you become an eye for like 3 movies. No, 6 movies. No. Scratch that. 6 movies. You were eye for 6 movies.
But you know what I absolutely love about this? Now that you bring up the original trilogy, this shows you that she truly considered it.
Yep.
In this moment, she really considered it, because the words he told to her of what he was going to make her if he joined her are the same words she told Frodo at the vase with the mirror, when she said instead of a lord, she could have been a queen. And when she had that whole change, the exact words that she said to Frodo are the words Sauron said to her, which I absolutely love, because it means for all that time, she truly started to consider what could have been had she said yes. And because of that, that's why she said she failed and she would remain Galadriel and go off to the sea when it's all over. Because she knows that even though she tried to stay righteous, she did still want that. She did.
Yeah. I think it was when he said something along the lines, she asked him a question like, what was the question? I forget what it was. It was something she asked him, like, would it be you? I can't remember what she said. It was something along the lines of, would you be the dictator or would you be this? And he was like, I don't see the difference. And she was like, that is the reason why I can't. Because I was like you, Ty, I was like, she considered it. Because she asked him that question, conscious, like, well, maybe, kind of thing. But that was when I was like, okay, that's red flag. Like, you cannot do this. Like, you can't go down this road at all. But she really did legitimately consider it. And it was messed up because I was like thinking of this whole entire interaction. It was like the 3 temptations of Jesus. Like, straight up. I was like, he brought her to the 3 different areas that would mess her up. One, showing her brother. Then it was kind of like, okay, well, wait, where are we at right now? Like, is this real? Like, and he was like, no, you got to be able to touch. I was like, oh man, he's perverting the whole entire thing. And he was swaying her. And then to the point on the boat, she asked, she was like, look, you this can't be you because you saved me. Why did you save me? He was kind of like, nah, like, you saved yourself. I need you to do this. But there's little spreads of truth in there, enough for her to be like, oh man, maybe I can cling to some kind of hope of changing him or something like that. But we all know the truth.
He wanted that triangle so bad because her husband gonna be coming back second season. So I'm kind of glad we don't really have to worry about that anymore, because we already got enough triangles already.
I mean, but never mind, I'm shut up.
So the 3 rings and the fact that they were made from the conversation that Galadriel had with Celebrimbor and Elrond about balance, needing 3 rings to have balance. Again, what you're saying with Trinity, that kind of ties in really well with that kind of theme as well. And the fact that they used her brother's dagger. So now that dagger is no more. So now, but again, a part of the her brother is still with her because the rings were made and she's going to wear one of them. So in a way, he's always going to be with her. So I just thought that was a good, I guess, way to end that particular story arc for the season. As much as I would have loved to have seen Durin and, people in the mountain, what happened in episode 7, I guess was probably a good way to end it, at least for this season. Ty, I didn't really get a chance because we haven't really seen you in a while. What did you think of the whole Durin and like his father last episode, real quick?
Well, Durin's father went all Harry Potter Death Eater on his son, which I thought was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? I thought he was going to grab him when he apparated, and then it was going to be an issue. But I love that actor. He does really good stuff. What I understood his father's concern. You're dealing with a simple thing between a father and son of ambition versus experience. His father. The thing about it is he's dealing with it. His father is hurt 3 times over. 1, his son betrayed him. 2, his subject defied the king's orders. And 3, he's now questioning the legacy of his own child. He's questioning his own legacy that's supposed to go through his child. Because if he's not willing to be cautious for the people, how can he trust him with the crown? And when he pulled the necklace or whatever off of him and waited around long enough to wait for him to try to pick it up, and he's like, leave it. It's not yours anymore. It was like the king no longer saw you as one of his subjects. A father didn't see him as his son anymore. And he's sitting here wondering, the fate of his people if it to be left to this man right here. And I there was so much compounded in that scene. You know, it was a lot of heartbreak and a lot of disappointment, but also you truly got to see the love of a father to a son and how much it hurt for him to do what he did, but he still had to do it anyway. And for him to be justified in that by seeing that little tidbit from the original trilogy we saw, and how, you know, they woke up the Balrog. I thought that was pretty dang cool. I thought that was a great scene, and I am actually glad they left it the way they did. In other words, they didn't go back to it, because I think it would be great for them to flesh that out in season 2. Giving you something to look forward to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about the person that folk thought was Sauron, but wasn't. It's another particular wizard that we all know and love. Mr. Stranger. He a wizard, and he's a particular wizard. And I thought, what did you guys think of the magic in the scene where he was fighting the 3 witches? And even how Nori kind of helped out, Nori and Co. Helped out. And I hate that Sam was right about what happened to my boy, Mr. Burroughs. R.I.P. But I mean, what did you guys think of the magic in that scene and just that in total sequence in general? And I'll start with Sam first.
Yeah, I think CG was dope, bro. Like that, like for them to be able to even film that, like kind of nighttime and midday, like it was very fascinating, because I was kind of like, who are these 3 wizards, witches, or whatever they are? I was like, because in the beginning, like the beginning of the episode, they were like, okay, you're Sauron. And I was like, that's blunt. Like, how am I supposed to feel about that? Like, what does this mean? But you know, when it gets to a point where they kind of knock him out, and like, you know, the Harfoots are really trying to help, I was like, man, one of these Harfoots about to take an L real quick. And sure enough, I was like, dag on it, bro. Like, why they got to kill the darn Black Harfoot? But after that, I knew he was going to get bucked. I was like, oh, yeah, they're done. But it's weird, because I don't know what... It was almost like he got activated. Because after that point, not only did he start to use his powers more effectively, more efficiently, but even his words and his verbiage started to come up. Like, it was almost like he was starting to understand who he was. Because it was weird, because when he first saw them, he had like a real conversation with them. That was the most amount of words he used the whole entire season, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, it's something about being connected with them that started to get him back remembering. I'm not sure if it's the staff. I'm not sure if it's them being connected to him in some shape or form. But I thought it was amazing. And then the reveal of what he actually is, yeah, I have my theories on who I think he is, but I know Ty's about to go into all that.
So the first thing I'll say about this is, especially for the way they shot those scenes, like Sam said, House of the Dragon should take some tips from this, man, because that stuff be dark. I'd be at 100% brightness and still can't see nothing, but I digress. As it pertains to the actual scene. Now, I've always had my suspicion that this was Gandalf. I call him Gandalf the Brown, because he ain't gray or he ain't white yet. So I called him Gandalf the Brown.
He just wants to go through all the colors? Okay.
Hey, listen, you don't go through the colors, you go through the hair. You gotta go. He had the gray beard and he had the white beard. This is the brown beard. This is the young, handsome Gandalfi right here. But I gotta give them credit, because I didn't do what Sam did and looked at social media like 24 hours before the thing. But when I first heard them say he was Sauron in that immediate moment at the time, I thought it made perfect sense. And it was such a great twist because when he landed in an image that looked like the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah.
And I think that was intentional. You know, some of the powers that he did seemed to be hurtful, although some of it was, yes, for growth. And, you know, like we saw with some of the trees and everything. But some of the stuff he did, like even when he was doing that ice maneuver and Nori touched him and her hand started to freeze over, she got fearful. I thought, well, if he is Sauron, that would kind of make a little sense. But as soon as I saw how he was pertaining to Nori, and especially with Sadat getting killed and what he did, I knew at that point that it had to be Gandalf, because this would definitely explain why Gandalf has such an affinity for hobbits.
Yeah.
This makes perfect sense, especially when someone's telling him, you don't have to let other people determine how you're going to be. You can choose to be good, you know? And I think when he had that staff in his hand, I said, okay, he's now coming into Gandalf, because Gandalf always had a staff. And the way he turned them witches to look like the witch kings of Angmar when he disintegrated them before they were gone, I was like, yo, that is absolutely cool. But the one thing out of everything that made me know that this is Gandalf the Brown was when he was like, something smells good over there. And she was like, how do you tell? When in doubt, always follow your nose. It's the exact thing that he said to Frodo when they were navigating Moria.
Oh,
it's the exact same thing. When they sat down and he wasn't sure where to go, when they were in those 3 doors, and he said, oh, this one. And he was like, how do you know? Well, this one doesn't smell like the rest. So when in doubt, always follow your nose. And I said, that's Gandalf. That's got to be Gandalf. And the thing is, for everything that has made, especially for this season finale, that had a lot of things revealed that were key elements, it's always on things that were said to Frodo in the original trilogy. What Sauron said to Galadriel and what the stranger said to Nori are all key things that stuck out in the original trilogy that were said to Frodo. So I absolutely loved it. House of the Dragon needs to take some filmmaking notes, trying to shoot dark scenes in the daytime. But other than that, it was an absolutely incredible scene. I absolutely loved it, especially Gandalf coming into himself, getting to know a little bit more of what he is, and actually now being able to speak coherent sentences so he can talk now. That's what I'm looking forward to the next season.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like, I kind of wish that they actually showed us maybe images to let us know that maybe he was actually remembering or starting to get a sense of who he was. I think that would have been a little extra nice. But what they did with it was fine too, especially with the magical aspect. Because with the ladies doing the magic, I thought when she first shapeshifted into Nori and how they transitioned into her, that was sick. I was like, wow, that was just I was like, I knew it wasn't Nori, but it was still really well done the way that she did it. And then even later with her impersonating him, it's just, I was like, was she the only one that could really shapeshift? Because it doesn't seem like the other two were really doing it. It was mostly her, which I also thought was interesting. But like you said, Ty, they kind of reminded us of the images of the ring waifs.
Yeah, the Witch Kings of Angmar.
Yep. Yeah, the Witch Kings. So could they come back as the Witch Kings, since they do seem to want to worship Sauron, just in a different form? or are they completely destroyed? Do you think they're going to come back, but this time as the witches of Agamar, or
Of Angmar? No, I don't think so. Though I'm not saying they can't come back. I just don't believe they'll come back as the Witch Kings of Angmar, because remember, the Witch Kings of Angmar are the 9 kings that received the 9 rings. And that's how Sauron got control of them, because he had the ring to rule them all and basically made them ring rates, basically. So I'm not saying they can't come back, because there is no guarantee that Sauron won't bring them back. But I don't think they'll come back as the Witch Kings of Angmar. However, I put a question mark or asterisk in that, because a lot of the things that have been done in this series doesn't really tie in with the timelines of the books. But because they're using certain things, they're using like the indexes and references of the Lord of the Rings and everything else to even establish this, because they can't use definitive items like the Silmarillion, even though they do get to reference it. They've kind of gone off the path a bit, which is okay, because it gives them a little more creativity.
Yeah.
Yet technically Gandalf isn't even supposed to be here yet. And technically the first set of rings were given to the dwarf lords, then the elves, and then men. And then Sauron made the one ring to rule them all. But they're getting to, I like that they're giving us more depth and story as to even why the rings were made. So I'm not really concerned with them kind of going off the beaten path or switching things around, because it does give them a little more creative control. And I think they're using this creative control much better than the writers for season 8 of Game of Thrones. So again, I digress, but I had to make my statement.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just gonna say, me being a person that's only watched, the movies, I thought it was very fascinating how Sauron's hand was all in it from the very beginning. Because when the elf was kind of like, "Man, we can't get this. This MILF is not working. I don't know how to get this metal to work. It's combusting," and he was like, "Well, no, maybe you should work it backwards." And then he was like, "No, you should kind of work it in with other ores." And I was like, this man played the long game, like the long game. Like he was like, "I'm gonna show you how to get a little bit of taste, but just remember." Because I was just like, this is crazy how it's all gonna lead back over to him. Because I was kind of like, well, wait, why didn't he stay and try to keep it? Because he kind of revealed himself. Like he really could have stayed, under the radar, but I don't know. It's just really fascinating how at the very beginning of all of it, Sauron was still connected to the inception of the idea, in some way, shape, or form. But being a person that hasn't read anything, I think it's just fascinating. It makes me really excited to see where they're going to go with it. I think that the producers and the creators said that because of the decision they made with Sauron going this season, they said that the next season is supposed to be a lot darker and a lot more grittier. And I don't know, a lot more malicious. I think that was one of the words they used.
Well, speaking of malicious, let's go to Numenor. We got to visit them briefly. The queen is kind of getting used to being blind. Elendil is kind of like guiding her. Am I imagining a little bit of chemistry between these two? Like, am I imagining something?
Wow, chicka, wow, wow. Nah, for real.
He like chocolate sprinkles on his vanilla ice cream. That's he like a little chocolate sprinkle.
It sounded like low key she been like kind of, I don't know if he had been looking on her or if it was opposite, but yeah, that conversation that they had, I was like, man, she really dependent on you. But it's not just about like you being like a bodyguard. It's like Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is a widower, so I mean, I guess enough time has passed for him to move on.
Shoot.
Yeah, but she's also, queen, or technically queen regent. Well, queen now. But like Sam said, on a sidebar, let's remember as we talk about Numenor, let's remember Sauron's long game. Because the first thing he did when he got to Numenor is he wanted to do blacksmithing. So he basically utilized that all the way out so that it wouldn't even be a weird concept to Galadriel or the rest when they started to put them rings together. But digress. Coming back to Numenor and coming back to the Queen and Elendil. Excuse me. I like that the relationship is budding. And I mean, let's be real. We all know that this is the only thing about the Rings of Power that it's not that I don't like, I have to accept it, is when we see certain things where the possibility of Isildur being dead, we know he's not dead. Because if he was dead, we wouldn't have the Lord of the Rings, thing. So we know he's not dead. But I'm hoping that they put together an interesting plot twist for him to come back alive. But I see the budding relationship now. However, I'm not particularly sure how it's going to go because the Queen is very independent. She's always been that way. So it's going to be interesting to see how she has to rely on someone, because even when he discovered she was blind when she was on the horse, he just told her, keep taking the horse. Like, she still wants to give the impression that she's competent, So I'm wondering how that's going to be, because she hasn't really had to deeply rely on anybody. She depends on certain people in her court for certain things, but she's always been able to hold her own. And now with her disability, she now has to rely on it. And that might lead to their relationship and where I hope they go. But at the end of the day, much like the Lord of the Rings, we all know it's not really going to go anywhere, because eventually something will happen to Numenor, because that's why Aragorn is one of the few that are left. So what I want to know, though, is something that they do in their budding relationship, or if their relationship gets deeper, if they decide to do something with the elves that actually causes them to be blessed as people with longer life than a normal human. Because remember, Aragorn is 80-something years old by the time the girl from the Horse Lords finds out that he's one of the Dunedain. And I'm wondering if whatever they decide to do to help the elves at some point within this series would lead to them becoming the Dunedain, So I want to know what their love relationship will, if it grows, which I hope it does, because they have some chemistry. I got to admit, they got some real kind of fantastic beast chemistry. That Newt Scamander and old girl, they got some good chemistry. So I'm hoping they pull from that, but but I'm wondering if they're going to tie that into certain things that will eventually help the Numenor become the Dunedain in the series. But I love it.
Well, I mean, I would hope they're off to a good start, because they even came to the aid of the Southlands. So I think that's like a good first step. Making sure they come back, because Isildur is still alive. Eventually, you're gonna have to find that out. Hopefully next season, and I think that will also help move them towards becoming the Dunedain, or select few becoming the Dunedain, or however you want to call it. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. But we actually got to see the daughter, Arwen, not Arwen. Lord have mercy. I know it's an EA. Anyways, the daughter, she is helping to build, I guess, a statue or something for the king. So she got to spend a little bit of time with him, and discovers, because of his rantings, or because of he's out of it, he's thinking that she's his daughter. And he's like, look, you got to see this before anything happens. And so she discovers, the ball where, they have the vision of the tsunami or the tidal wave that's coming to Numenor. So something tells me that she's going to touch it and she's going to now know. And I kind of thought about this, like, several episodes ago. I was like, something's going to happen. They have to give her something to do. So this is another person that's going to be finally in on that secret that the queen has been trying to keep. And then we got this dude who's just I still think he's gonna make a power play, especially once they realize what happened in the Southlands and the fact that the queen is now blind. Either he's gonna make a play to try and marry her, or which creates a triangle. Oh gosh, these daggone triangles. Or he's just gonna try and take power for himself and just trying to marry the queen. So either way you look at it, he's gonna have a part to play. So what did you guys think is gonna happen as far as like what's gonna happen with that story arc and how they're gonna move forward?
They want black coffee, no sugar, no cream. That's the kind of queen we want down with our team. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Sam, go ahead, man. I'm just playing around. Go ahead.
Oh man. I think with the Queen story arc, I think they're definitely gonna try to make a power play. He's gonna try to call her incompetent. Maybe she's not the worthy queen that they thought. She allowed the elves to come in to begin with. She went to the Southlands, got half the troops killed, came back blind, and then now we have no king and we have a queen that knows or sees nothing. He's probably gonna try to advocate for that. And what's gonna happen, I think the captain's daughter is gonna try to work with his son to try to supersede whatever she's trying to position. Like she's gonna be like, yo, we got to get ready because the war is coming. We seen the darkness. They're gonna be like, no, like you care everything about everything that's going on over there. We need to be hunkering down, protecting here. And I think the daughter is gonna go against her dad. I think she's gonna choose to work with the boyfriend and the boyfriend's dad. And I don't like that personally because I don't like her character. Nothing about her character is connected with me at this point. Honestly, I mean, his son I really didn't connect with either, but with her specifically, they haven't given her anything to do. And they finally gave her something to do, and I'm like, I don't know the direction she's gonna take because I know for a fact that boyfriend was put here for a reason, so they're gonna use him to get the information that she knows, and of course, his father is gonna use it negatively. So that's gonna be one power play. And then they may say, the queen was fraternizing with the captain, and that might be a whole nother thing. So who really knows? Really knows, but that's some of my theories I'm thinking about with them. And just real quick before we go past this, are we going to talk about this moment at any time?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to check. Good.
So I definitely agree with you, Sam. I think this is what the other guy, the big time senator or whatever, he's been waiting for. He's been waiting for his opportunity to move. He knows that the king, is ailing. He knows that the queen, although she's been doing a good job, he knows that there was not a lot of agreement in doing what she did, and this is now the perfect opportunity for him to stake a claim, which I think he's going to do. What I do find interesting is Elendil's daughter, because she's a wild card. I mean, she's actually a wild card for everybody because she's not even in the books. So what they plan to do with her is interesting to me, because no one really knows where it's going to go. But now that she has seen the Palantir, I'm actually wondering if her seeing the Palantir and seeing that prophecy or that image of the possible future where Numenor gets destroyed, I wonder if she, by her seeing that plays another role and a step to actually making it happen. you know, because the truth is, I think if they had not gone to the Southlands, they probably would have been okay, you know. But of course, them being motivated by prophecies and things, and the leaves of the tree started to fall, that kind of pushed them into the belief of this prophecy. And the thing is, I think their belief in this prophecy and going along with their beliefs is probably what's going to lead to their destruction. If they had just simply just ignored it and said, there you go, we're, you know, the leaves are falling, but we still ain't going over there to deal with any of that, they might have been all right. But I am definitely interested to see how she's going to play a role. And I agree with you, Sam. I think she's going to utilize the senator's son to actually be his downfall. I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to try to pull the move, and something's going to happen which is going to take him out, and either they'll put the queen back in place and serve as her personal aides, or the son is going to take over the father's role, and she of course would probably end up with him as, you know, a lover and a key piece in the court, or they end up being the ones to actually rule over Numenor, which will allow the queen to indulge and maybe go further down the path of being with Elendil and wherever that takes them. Although we know Elendil dies battling Sauron at Mordor, right by Isildur. So I'm interested to see how this goes, but I think this is definitely about to be, within the Rings of Power, a mini Game of Thrones piece. And I agree with you, Sam. This dude does kind of, he is like the Otto Hightower of this group. He's just a lot shorter, and I think he's actually playing the game a little better than Otto, because he actually has the ears and the hearts of the people, because he is the one that did make them all stand down when they were going off about the elf being there and everything else. He actually does inspire the people, even if it's with ill intention.
Yeah. I agree with both of you. I definitely also think there's going to be a love component with the daughter and the son. Like, that's obvious. Like, I'm already rolling my eyes at it. Like, I'm already bored with it. Like, I'm just like, oh, okay, yay, all right. Because I just feel like their story isn't as interesting. I don't know why. The court part, like the dad is more interesting, like what the son and the daughter is doing. Like that, yeah. But we'll see what happens. So let's get back to the Harfoots and that whole touching moment. I was getting a little teary-eyed, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm like, oh, Poppy, oh, you know, like the family. I'm like, are we gonna see them again? Do you think we're gonna see them again? I just feel like we should, at least at some point, because they are headed to the Southlands, or headed further south, if I recall correctly. So they're gonna have to run into, you know, either the orcs or even just, you know, Arondir and Bronwyn and all those other people. So what do you think's going to happen to them, and do you think Nori's going to be able to see him again?
Dang.
That's a good question.
That's crazy.
I was waiting for Nori to be like, I'm going on an adventure. That's what I was waiting for. I thought it was an absolutely beautiful scene. I loved that at the end of all the discord and disagreement and everything else, that her family finally accepted her for who she was. She's not just your typical traveling Harfoot, you know, or pre-Hobbit. She is, I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Bagginses are descendants of her. I think Bilbo, Frodo, and the Baggins family are descendants of Nori, because they have that same thing where they just have to be on an adventure. And I think that also may be the reason why Gandalf recruited Bilbo in The Hobbit and then got Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, because he's probably dealt with this family line for generations, you know, while he was becoming Gandalf the Brown to Gandalf the Gray, and then Great Gandalf the White. He's probably been dealing with this specific family for generations. So I'm hoping that in their adventures, nothing happens to Nori, because the truth is, if I'm not mistaken, in the whole series, no hobbits get killed. You know, Bilbo makes it, Frodo makes it, the his friends make it, you know. So I mean, these cats are the ones that literally got the king of that got Aragorn and an elf and the people of Gondor to literally kneel before them. Like, so I'm hoping that in this series, Nori makes it all the way through to have a family, which leads to be the legacy that goes down to become the Baggins family. So I absolutely find it interesting how this is playing out. And I'm hoping as they go on this adventure, she makes it through. But it was a beautiful scene of acceptance, even with all the disagreements of you can't fit everybody in the same box. She was always fighting because she knew she was different than the rest. She wanted to see more of the world. She knew that there was more to this world and where they travel than having to hide from people that are 6'5", 5'11", 6 feet and taller than them, that there was more to this whole story. And because of their unique culture, it's what led them, which is what led Gandalf to them, which led him to have that perspective, which led him to be close to hobbits and spend so much time in the Shire. And I'm hoping that at the end of this series, whenever it ends, the Harfoots eventually just end up settling in the place that becomes the Shire. And just like when Samwise gets with Rosie and they have a kid and they have a family, and Nori will meet someone and fall in love and have kids that'll eventually be, you know, the Bagginses. So I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I was like, we gotta talk about this. Like, it was so beautiful because I mean, one, how my black Harfoot died, man. Like, man was like, look, I just want to see the sun. I just want to see the sun one more time. And they all sat next to him, and he just slowly passed away. I was like, man, that hurt my whole heart. And then the beautiful part about it, this whole entire time, the family has been like, no, you got to do this. No, you got to do that. Specifically, the mom. The mom has kind of been like, no, you're just a normal this. And even the last time she in this wallowing self-defeat kind of, she was like, no, like, you did the right thing. It's okay. Even though you're like, no, I don't mean anything. To the mom finally saying at the end of the season, like, no, you're going to go and you're going to do this. Because it was funny because when the mom left with her, I was kind of like, the mom might die. I knew it was either going to be the mom or it was going to be the old man. But I was like, they can't kill the mom, bro. They can't do that. But the mom and the dad gave her the reinforcement that she needs. To answer Nat's question, there's only one thing that leads me to believe that she's going to come back. And it's this relationship right here. Poppy has got this girl's back. I knew Poppy from Rip. The moment that Nora was talking about leaving, I was like, Poppy's going to take care of them. Poppy's going to sure enough take care of the crew. But it's kind of like they got to see each other again. And it's kind of like if first time I watched in The Lord of the Rings, I was like, when Frodo left, I was like, man, he's got to come back. I don't know how, it's looking dire, but he's got to come back in some capacity. So I think ultimately that's definitely gonna happen. I'm gonna ask a weird question because I got some weird vibes with all different people when it comes to relationships concerned. And I'm not talking about these two. I think they're just legit friends. I think they're like sister and sister. But Nori, what is I don't know how to ask this nicely. What is Nori's relationship with Gandalf the Brown? I know it sounds so
Come
freaking
on,
weird.
fam.
No, I gotta ask the question. I
Fam.
gotta bring it up. The reason why I asked that
fam.
question is because I'm like, what's this little girl gonna do? Oh man. And it's like their relationship is so weird because she's teaching him how to really live, but at the same that time, like, I don't know. maybe I'm getting wrong vibes. Maybe I looked at way too much House of the Dragons.
Oh my god, dude.
I know that was a low blow. I apologize
think
for anybody watching this. But no, in all seriousness, like I don't know. Did y'all get no, come on, somebody back me up on this.
Natty, I'm gonna let you have this one. I'm gonna let you have this one first.
No, this is so weird.
I got your back. I got your back, Natty. I'm gonna let you have it. I'm gonna let you have it this one first.
And a little
Okay, granted, I am a romantic, but that was a little too much for me. I was thinking more of a father-daughter, big brother, little sis. I was not thinking romantic. I mean, if anything, she may have a crush on the idea of what he represents, but I don't think it's anything that's like romantic. I wasn't really getting that vibe. Okay. But I mean that's you, Sam. That's all you.
No. I just wanted to bring it up because I want us to fully be transparent, and I don't want to sit there and be like,
Sam, I don't.
You watching too much House of the Dragon. This ain't no grooming situation.
Sam, I don't think she's gonna climb that mountain, bro. That's not. She's not gonna climb Mount Gandalf, bro. No. You're not gonna climb Mount Gandalf. She's not even gonna mount Mount Gandalf. I'm like, I think this is something. I think this is something of a bond that's been forged through fire. When he had no one, she was a friend to him. Even though she couldn't understand him, she was being helpful. Even though her interest was the fact that this is something outside of the norm for the Harfoots. This is something from the world that she's never seen before, which sparked her curiosity. The fact is, he's a friend to her. And I wouldn't even say it's more so I think it's now becoming kind of a big brother, little sister, but I think before that, it was a big sister, little brother, because she was taking care of him. She was defending him against her own people. And she even convinced them for them to have faith in him and treat him, like they treat each other. Yes, he's a tall guy, but that's all it was. Yes, he has magic powers, but it doesn't mean he wasn't a bad person. And he ended up being helpful to all of them. And he protected them and he defended them. I think this relationship is what spawns the bond and the affinity that Gandalf has for the hobbits, because that's who you really see him with most of the time, or that's who you see him with when he goes to, get a break or get away from his duties and stuff as a wizard because of these bonds. I don't think it's going to turn into, a little person, big person relationship. I think it's a matter of you've protected me when I had nothing. When I came out of the sky, didn't know who I was, didn't know how to speak, let alone do anything else. You took care of me. So now it's like, now you've done all this. Now it's my turn to take care of you and protect you because of what you've done for me. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's going to go any further than that. I think they're going to I think they're building and they're going to increase their bond. But if it's going to, I don't think it's going to turn into, I don't get the impression it's going to turn into a deep love or falling in love with someone. This to me kind of feels more Frodo and Samwise Gamgee than it does, the Notebook, if you will. I don't think it's going to turn
but low key, there's always been a little something with Frodo and Sam, but that's probably the wrong comparison. But that's just me.
Well, so no, if he going off of those rules, then that would be Poppy and Nori.
I don't think that anything will happen with Poppy and Nori. I think
right, exactly. I don't either.
Yeah. But yeah, like Ty said, it's not gonna be any. There's enough romance or potential romances already. I mean, we already got the human elf dynamic. That's probably enough. We don't need any more interspecies doing anything.
Dang. Oh man, you should have said that like that.
I probably shouldn't have said that.
It's all good. You said it.
There's
It's all
nothing
right.
wrong with it. I'm just saying, as far as the amount of romances already on this show, I don't think we need one more.
And what purpose would it serve?
Exactly. It
What
just
purpose
doesn't
would
really
it serve?
anything.
It doesn't serve any purpose. I mean, even the Queen and Elendil's budding romance serves a bit more purpose than a potential Gandalf the Brown and Nori. Like, it doesn't serve any. Even her and Poppy, Nori and Poppy's romance, if it was to ever happen, would serve more of a purpose than, Gandalf. And this is Gandalf's basically first Frodo or first Bilbo, in my opinion. That I think that's all it is. I don't think it's going to be any more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't
I'm
think it's
done with it. I'm keeping it in the put it in a
Shame
box
on you.
and throw it in the water.
Shame.
Not even Jack Cousteau can get that.
Shame. Shame. Gotta give you some GOT real quick. Shame.
All right. Any other additional thoughts before we wrap up this finale? Anything else that you enjoyed about the season finale? Anything else you want to add? Any predictions about season 2?
All right, Sam, if you want to take it, go ahead, bro. My bad.
No, I was just gonna ask at what point. Well, I'm assuming that the next step is gonna be that Doran and his wife are gonna find a way to get the rings, because I don't know another way it would be next. Like, either one, Doran's dad passes away and he's like, all right, shoot, I'm about to take the next initiative, and Elrond's like, look, I found out how to make these rings work. I want you guys to have some. And I think that's going to be the next thing. It makes the most sense that Elrond would contribute and help his friend, and trying to get like rings made, because was it 9 rings for the
It was 9 rings for the kings of men, and I think it was 7 for the dwarf lords.
Yeah.
7 for the dwarf lords. Yeah.
So I think that would be the next thing. I just don't know how the humans would get it. Like, how does that?
That's where Sauron's gonna come into play here.
Well, Sauron's already in play.
Well, I'm saying, as far as him influencing them to get rings, I don't think, because if I recall correctly, when Sauron made the One Ring, I think because of the way that the elves made theirs, they were like, oh, you know what? I don't trust this, but we're kind of protected because we kind of did our own thing. But the rest of them, I'm a little bit concerned for y'all.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of glad that they kind of did it this way, because then that they'll know for sure that Sauron's up to some BS with him tempting, or with other people making the rings for themselves and him being able to try and control everybody. They just beat him to the punch, at least in this version of events, so to speak. So we'll see. I'm just glad we finally got some rings, or hints of rings, because we've been wondering how they're going to introduce the rings in this series.
I was wondering. I was like, is there gonna be any gosh darn rings? And for the rings of power, they made no gosh darn rings. But yeah, no, I think that this was a great finale. I really did enjoy it. I was thrown by it, even with me being spoiled. I was only been 1 day after, and I was like, whatever. But I'm curious. The next thing would be like how the rest of the rings are gonna be created, dispersed, and who's gonna start turning left, so to speak. Because I'm curious about Theo, Arendir, and the mom, how they contribute to how things are going to be ran moving forward. Because the last thing they heard was, Halbrand was the king. I don't know what is going to happen now. Is Halbrand going to come back to them and kind of pose like, yo, I'm back? they heal me up, let me know what I need to do. Like I can lead you guys. I don't know. I really have no clue.
I'm looking forward to a few things. First, like you said, what happens to Arondir and the mom and the people of the Southlands that still believe that Hallbrand is their lost king? I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to what produces the remaining 16 rings, because we got 3 down, we got 16 left. And I'm also wondering what happens to the dwarves after Sauron makes the One Ring. What happens? Because we know that we know that because of what they did in advance, nothing happens to the elves. Galadriel still has her ring, so does Elrond and Callum and Bor. Because we see them in the Lord of the Rings, or at least 2 of the 3 of them. We know what happens to the 9 kings of men who become the Witch Kings of Angmar, but we never hear what happens to the dwarves, because it's not like they were all obliterated in Khazad-dûm, because Gimli's still there, and Gimli didn't even know what happened to Moria. He thought Moria was still a budding city, until they actually went in the mines of Moria and saw what happened. So my question really is, I wonder if they're going to show what happens to the dwarf lords after they get the 7 rings and what Sauron does, because you never really see what happens. But I am looking forward to this, what they're going to do next season and how they're going to develop the 7 ring. Well, really the 9 rings for the kings of men, because the 7 rings could easily spur from their intent to want to develop something to protect the dwarves, because they now know it's Sauron. But who's to say Sauron doesn't shapeshift into another dwarf and convinces Durin to really push for the Mithril and start to develop the rings for the dwarf lords, and who's to say Sauron won't show up as a man later on, or even the man from the books that actually convinces Celeborn to make the rest of the rings and gets those rings made for the 9 kings of men. There's a lot of story to fill, and I'm glad that they have the creative freedom to do it, but still tie it all back to the original trilogy. So I'm hoping that they do that. And I need this image right here, Sam. I need that screenshot. I need you send that to me, bro. That's fire right there. That kind of breaks it down real nice, like. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next season. I think they did it well. I think they did what TV series should do. Kind of set you up, even with all the knowledge, still find a way to kind of set you along a path. And then here's the surprise, couple twists for you. I think they handled that well, especially with folks who have handled the material and have done it before. And I give them a ton of credit. I wish I could give House of the Dragon more, but I give Rings of Power a lot of credit. They did an incredible job, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
Random question. I know this is a stupid question, but those 3 rings that the elves have, what advantage does those rings give them? I honestly don't know. I'm literally asking.
I thought that gave them like powers.
It does give them some form of power. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I read the books, but as we saw in the Lord of the Rings, those that actually hold the rings of power, at least for the 2 that we saw, Elrond and Galadriel, they are revered as elf lords and ladies. The 9 kings of men, held a certain sway over their people because they were kings and the dwarfs were lords, and maybe they were untouchable. Of this, this could be the folks that became untouchable, and it could be all in an effort to prevent Sauron from taking them over. However, there is no guarantee that the elves will be involved. Elrond and Galadriel and Celeborn will be involved in this particular series with the development of the 7 rings and the 9 rings, because the elves came out all right because they wanted to find that balance. But who's to say in their efforts to try to thwart Sauron, those 7 rings for the dwarves get created too late, which makes them corrupted, and they get there too late for the 9 rings that were developed for the kings of men. Because if they were actually able to intercept and prevent that, they may not have become the Witch Kings of Angmar, and we would not, maybe not seen what happens to the 7 dwarf lords, which could possibly be negative. So there's always that. And shout out to Sam for these images. They're fire right now. Those you dealing with 20 rings right there. That's fire, bro.
Yeah, really. I'm trying to figure out who the men are, like as far as the kings, because we haven't really had a chance to really know any other kingdoms other than the Southlands. And even like with the dwarves, we haven't seen too many other dwarf kingdoms so far. So I'm hoping that we explore that in season 2. That does mean more characters. That does mean more writing down some names. But hopefully, because I don't know where Gondor, founding of like even the writers of Rohan, like where they at? So I'm hoping that we get to see kind of like the origins of those kind of kingdoms. So we'll see.
Yeah, I believe all of that happens when Isildur and his father come back together and they are in Middle Earth. Because if you recall, the main section of Gondor looks exactly like the main section of Numenor. So I think they brought their architectural and cultural stuff with them to Middle Earth. And I believe all of them are actually breakaways somewhat of Numenor to a certain extent, except the people of the Southlands. But I think all of that spurns from where they are. But it would be interesting to see how the Horse Lords get developed, what leads to Gondor being created, because we know that, it was there before, it was there when Isildur and his father and the elves and men and everybody else went to battle Sauron and Mordor over the One Ring. So it'd be interesting to see how all that gets developed. But the show is Rings of Power. So my main focus is, how do the other rings get developed? And if they are built the same way as the elves developed them, because if that was the case, then nothing should have happened to the other races. But because Sauron has had his hand in everything, he may have made those rings corruptible, which is why he can control the kings and can maybe possibly control the dwarves, but he couldn't touch the elves because they found him out before he could really, dig his nails in, if you will.
That and help make the rings. Because Galadriel was really adamant about elves only being around to make the rings.
Right. But even though he helped make the rings, he gave them the idea how to use the mithril to make the rings. He wasn't there when he said in order to make the rings to protect them the way they needed pure metal, pure silver and gold from Valinor. Sauron wasn't there for that. He was already gone. So when they did that, that probably is what is protecting the elves, overall from the influence of Sauron.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you guys think of this finale, the season. I know we got some haters, but those that actually enjoyed it, or at least, you know, have constructive criticism, because I do think in some places it was a little slow. Like, it was like, can we get to the point? But visually, of course, it was stunning. A lot of the performances I definitely enjoyed, and I think it was just a solid first season. Hopefully we'll get even more for the second season. And thanks, guys. Definitely like and subscribe. Where can people find you, Ty?
Yeah, it's your boy TYNIDDY out the NY. Came to DC for the degree. Now you can find me at MD Ty Nitty on Instagram. I'll let your boy.
Alrighty. Sam, fearless leader of TeamJVS, where can people find you?
Oh shoot, we doing this? Yeah, you can find me on Super SEL0320 on Instagram and on Twitter. And now TikTok. I created my own TikTok, even though we have a TikTok. So we want you guys to go to the description bar below. Check out all of our social medias. We got Facebook, we got TikTok, we got Instagram, we got Discord, we got everything. We may be starting to do Discord Q&As. I'm talking to some certain people about setting that up anyway. But yeah, follow us. Follow everything we do.
Yeah, pretty much. So thanks, guys, for watching. We'll catch y'all next time. There's definitely gonna be more series coming, more content coming. You know, like Sam just always be doing all kinds of content. So you're gonna find him more than anybody else on the YouTube channel. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch y'all next time. Bye.
Shame.
Wow.
Shame to that man.
Shame.
Falling out the top of the
I can see skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline.